Okay, we are back. So, virtual statements 13, 14, yeah, and 15. They are clearly related. 13, 14, 15. They are about, the topic there is how to understand the path in terms of ideas such as there's a quick path, there is a shortcut path. So it's addressing those issues, and those issues continue to be things that we hear today, this is a shortcut, and this is an easy way, this is a fast way, and all of that. So Kyoba Rinpoche is pointing out his understanding of how you cannot really, there isn't, a shortcut per se to attaining state of Buddha. Of course, there is relative lengths of time that it takes for one person compared to another person in terms of how fast somebody can progress. That, he does not dispute. That he does not say, there isn't something like that. But the idea that, there is some kind of method that if only you find it, or if only someone would be nice enough, kind enough to give it to you, then there is this way that can bypass everything else and get there. Basically, he's addressing that, and I think both on the intellectual and even emotional level, and perhaps even more importantly, even if intellectually we don't believe that anymore, emotionally, I think we are sort of wired to want to believe in things like that, in a shortcut, that, I can get there quickly, without doing the necessary work, right? So Milarepa, for example, it is said that he achieved awakening in one lifetime. Of course, that statement we cannot take so literally, as in he never practiced any dharma, never did any purification, never accumulated any merit until that lifetime. Impossible. He did a lot of work previous lifetimes. When they say that he achieved enlightenment in one lifetime, what they're saying is, my understanding, is that if you look at how he started in that lifetime and where he ended up in that lifetime, then this is an amazing case of in one lifetime, he just turned 180 degrees. So earlier in his life, he committed a lot of negative karma, including the karma of killing. Then in one lifetime, powerfully, that was reversed. During Buddha's lifetime, there is another figure like that, Angulimala. In fact, Angulimala even more negative. Due to the before he came to the Buddha, he was a student of a different spiritual tradition. And it said that he was doing so well that his guru really liked him. But then that gave rise to jealousy among the fellow students. So then the fellow students started to create, like slander him and convince their guru that he was having an affair with the guru's wife. So got the guru really upset. So the guru believed those rumors. And so Angulimala got very sad and asked the guru and tried to explain that he did not do it, and the guru will not accept. Then finally the guru said, you can purify what you have done if you bring me a garland of 1,000 fingers. If each of these fingers have to come from a victim that you have killed. So he wants Angulimala to kill 1,000 people, and then to cut off, I don't know, like the right forefinger or something like that, and string it. And so Angulimala, mala means garland, and so Anguli means finger. So Angulimala means a garland of fingers. And so it is said that then Angulimala set about in one well-traveled path that traders come through that area. He would hide there and then he would murder. And it said that he murdered 999 people until finally the Buddha one day kind of surveyed the world and saw Angulimala, that the time might be right for Angulimala to be turned around. Then the Buddha intervened. And in that case, Angulimala was about to kill his own mother because he had the time limit that the teacher gave him. And he was running out of time, and there was the only person available was his mother. He was about to kill his mother. So Buddha intervened. Then Angulimala completely changed and became an arhat in that lifetime. And so when we say, I sidetracked to Angulimala story, but when we say, like Milarepa in one lifetime, we don't literally mean that he never accumulated any merit, he never purified any negative karma, and then in this one lifetime, he did everything. But we don't mean that. We mean within that lifetime, he turned, from such a negative start to such a positive end. So likewise, when someone seems to advance or to advance on the path so quickly, it's possible. But even that, is due to causes and conditions that were created in the past. And in the past could be last week. It doesn't have to be last life. In the past could be last week. Something that happened to you that so powerfully shook you up that then you understood, the importance of putting complete effort, complete dedication. Then you single-mindedly practice. That can can speed things up. So 13, 14 is to show that how, in terms of the realization that arise, the negativity that needs to be purified, there is a progression. There is a progression, and that progression can be faster or slower, but the progression is how it happens. And that, again and again, right? The Gongchik you have seen, it is not, don't try to think that what you are lacking is a supreme method. What we are lacking is not so much that. The supreme method will come when we have the conditions to use that. The supreme guru will turn up when we have the conditions for that. So what we can do now is to assemble those conditions. Marpa was the supreme guru for Milarepa because Marpa had those qualities for sure. But just because Marpa had those qualities doesn't mean Milarepa, right, could see those qualities. So for Marpa's neighbors, for example, that shared a property line with him, probably, the neighbor only saw Marpa as a greedy person trying to steal his property by moving the lines. So he did not see any qualities in Marpa. And if the neighbor is jealous, probably also saying, this guy, have a family, wife and kids and big house. And then he said he's a lama. He said he's giving all these special instructions. He's just using the Dharma to make money for himself. People will say things like that. And so for these who don't have the karma, the conditions to see Marpa's qualities, then those qualities will remain hidden. So Marpa needs to have those qualities. So we also learned that from other statements in Gongchik. Yeah, if the thing, right, the object doesn't have a basis for you to perceive it as such, you cannot willy-nilly just superficially kind of perceive that. So somewhere, right, in one of the statements, it says that. But nonetheless, in another statement, it also says, later you will see, there will be statements that will say, now, even if a guru doesn't have all the qualities that are necessary, or those qualities are not fully kind of activated, if you serve that guru and you do your best to perceive that guru as Dharmakaya, you will still receive benefit. Now, you may not, realize Mahamudra due to that person, because that person has not realized Mahamudra him or herself, but nonetheless, you're serving that person. You're not perceiving that person and kind of like finding fault with that person creates merit for yourself. That point is also in Gongchik. So you see how these statements, right, they're always working together. You cannot just take one statement and you say, well, that statement says that. Well, there are other statements. So now statement 15. 13 and 14, if you look at it just 13 and 14, you get the idea that there is a definite path where there is a definite sequence of progression. You cannot shortcut anything. Using the analogy of to go from here, let's say I want to go from here to Texas. Whether I drive on the road or I fly in the air, the distance is still the same. One goes by a faster way, one goes by a slower way. Yes, it's the method, it's the technology, but I need to create the conditions for either driving there or flying there. Yeah, so 13 and 14 says that. 15 seems to take a different turn. And if you are rigid, if you don't relate to these statements in a way that they are put together, you will think, oh, wait, 15 is again canceling everything. So earlier, there are some statements, again, we saw another situation like this. Yeah, it seems like the statements are moving in one direction, but before you get kind of like stuck there, the next statement wants you to kind of open up again. Having understood that point, you also need to understand this point, right? So 15 says, it also occurs that one first abandons the veils of the objects of knowledge. In the commentary, it explains that basically, right, we say, we have Buddha nature, we all have Buddha nature. Why we are circling in samsara is because of these veils, because of these obscurations. So in terms of obscurations, in the Abhidharma, sometimes there are said to be two basic types of obscurations. And sometimes the two is divided further to become three. When it's two obscurations, it says that there is the obscuration that as a result of it, we are stuck in samsara. Then there is the obscuration that as a result of it, we do not see everything as they are. So the first one is called emotive obscuration, obscurations of the afflictive emotions that then gives rise to a mistaken belief in self or essence. The second obscuration is the obscuration, cognitive obscuration. And that one is the one that prevents us from because of that obscuration, our all-knowing, omniscient mind is covered. And that is the second one, which is to be said, is said as the more subtle one. So the emotive obscuration is coarser. Cognitive obscuration is more subtle. Generally, it is said that at the eighth bhumi, emotive obscuration is removed. Samsara is ended. But you still need ninth bhumi, 10th bhumi in order to purify cognitive obscuration, the most subtle obscuration, so that not only are you free from samsara, you also achieve all-knowing mind. Buddha. That's the general. Here, Jigten Sungen says, it is also possible to abandon the more subtle one first. It's also possible to abandon, to purify the more subtle one first. And in doing so, the coarser one also gets purified. Yeah. So the counter statement. People claim that all of the veils, of all the veils, one first abandons the karmic veils, then the veils of mental afflictions, then finally the veils of objects of knowledge. And so here, the counter position is three veils. The first two are the emotive obscuration that I talked about. The last one, the veils of objects of knowledge, is the cognitive obscuration. And so the commentary here points out how Milarepa, for example, said to Gampopa, it is possible to remove the cognitive obscuration first, to go directly to cognitive obscuration, whereby emotive obscuration will also be removed. Yeah. So here, right, as I say, it seems to go, a little bit in a different direction from the last two statements. So the last two statements is made to address certain aspects of that idea that you can have a shortcut. This statement is to address how, however, not so much as a shortcut, but if you put in really great effort, which is the examples given in the commentary says. Yeah. So the analogy used to illustrate this point is like, it says, it's like you have a cloth, and the cloth has different stains. So if you look at the different stains and you say, oh, blood stain or red wine stain is the most difficult to remove, right? So then you go find, right, something that can remove that. And if you succeed in finding the washing agent that can remove the most stubborn stains, then the other stains that are less stubborn also removed. So this is not so much a shortcut. This is more like, you put in great effort. And your effort is so strong. Now, it's not just strong effort in the wrong direction. Of course, you need the guidance of the guru to say, with very strong effort, you can go directly to the mind. But of course, where does this strong effort come from? And to be able to sustain the strong effort as you apply it to looking at the mind, it will have to rely on merit that you have accumulated. Otherwise, even if you look at the mind, you want to train by directly looking at the mind, you might even you might just last for a short period of time. Then no more energy. Won't work also. So this is the gist of 15, as far as I can understand. So maybe your questions or comments? Anyone?
For me, it sounds a little bit contradiction. Sounds like you go first, I don't know, to the 10 boomi and then return.
This is not returning. This is not about going through the boomis. Yeah. When I say, at the 8th boomi, you achieve this, and at the 10th boomi, you achieve that. Yeah. We're not saying that, as you go through the 8 boomis, right, you are working on purifying the emotive obscuration. No. The statement is, at 8th bhumi, emotive obscurations is gone. See, that's the difference. It's not like for the first 8 bhumi, you work on, getting rid of your emotive obscuration. Then for the next 2 bhumis, you work on getting rid of cognitive obscuration. The statement is, at 8th bhumi, your emotive obscurations are gone. At 10th bhumi, your cognitive obscurations are gone. So what Milarepa is saying is, if you have great effort, if you have great merit, and if you have a great teacher, right, you can go all the way to the 10th bhumi. And once cognitive obscurations is removed, then the rest necessarily has to be removed. Again, the analogy of the cloth with different stains is a very good one. It's saying, you look at this cloth, the normal way to clean this cloth is to clean the ones that are easier to clean first. But there is a way to clean this cloth if you have the right conditions to clean the most difficult to clean. The thing about the most difficult to clean, if you go in that route, my experience, not talking about the mind now, but just talking about, these examples, it will seem like nothing is going on for a long time. And you might become discouraged. Because you cannot see, that things have been removed. But what you don't see is the lesser stains are being removed because you're so focused on removing the hardest stain. But as you're working on removing the hardest stains, right, the lesser stains have disappeared. But you're not noticing that. So then you might give up, you know. You might think, oh, this is not working. One analogy given by a Chan or Zen master, it said, in the ordinary approach, when you try to uproot a parasite, you know, growing on a tree, right? A parasite, a creeper that's going to take over, right? He says the general approach is to cut the leaves, cut, until you have weakened this tree you want to pull out. Then finally, you pull out the root. Yeah, so you cut. You kind of like make this parasite tree that you want to remove weak by cutting, by depriving it of sunlight, you know, by doing whatever, right? The other approach is, he says, the Chan approach, the Zen approach is go straight to the roots. But go straight to the roots, you know, to you and me maybe sounds good. Oh, yes. But until you actually try and you realize these roots are so deep, you know. So you dig and you dig and you dig, but this whole tree is up there, you know. And you could be digging forever and seeming like nothing is going on. But when you finally uproot it, the whole thing kaplunk. So these are some examples.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. (16) and 17 are related. They're really good. It has to do with the definitions and the understanding of the role of logic, or what's known as valid knowledge. But we won't look at that today. What I want to do actually is, remember how we skipped the introduction to this commentary. Now I want to go back to the introduction. Specifically, I want to go to the section of 44. Let's revisit. If you have the book, it's page 44, but it's the section right before the first Vajra statement. In the chapter, at the end of the chapter before chapter 1, in the introduction, the last section of the introduction, the section title is Briefly Summarizing by Establishing the Body of the Treatise in General. This is the general summary of the body, the content of Gongchik. So today is a good day to go back. Now that you have had a taste of Gongchik, you know, maybe for some too much of a taste, you know, it's like, okay, I need to take a break now, which is fine, you know. I should have said earlier, this is always sometimes a little bit awkward. I find, maybe it's just me, that some people, like some of us, yeah, we study, and then after a while we feel like, oh, this is too much, then you are too shy to say, oh, this is too much. Then you just hope, quietly you'll disappear and nobody will notice. Then of course what happens is like, people do notice, and then it gets awkward, then the next time you run into each other, you kind of smile and hello, hello, and then quickly you walk away, But please don't do that, everything depends on causes and conditions. If it's becoming too much, it's like, no, you're not, you won't insult me, you won't insult the other people who are staying here, to continue to take a break. You take a break and then you come back, or maybe you don't come back. It's okay. It's just don't give up on practicing Dharma. There's so many things you can practice. But then, on the other hand, if you at some point say to me, hey, can you be my teacher? And I more or less did not answer, let's be explicit. If I more or less did not answer, I'm saying, yes, I am your teacher, but let's not get into, can you be my teacher? Because words are useless. Yeah? Words are cheap. So through your actions, through my actions, we see, Can you be student? Can I be teacher? We see, What's the point of, oh, can you be my teacher? Blah, blah, blah. I never have much, put much credence in that. So sometimes maybe hard to read, culturally. But even within my own culture, I find that people don't quite understand, this is not how it works, Yeah, you can ask, So by the way, what I mean is, if at some point, you have said those words to me, then my job also is to be a little bit more annoying, If you don't keep on track, then I might get a little bit, more inconvenient, because you asked me to do this job, So then I have to do this job. Even if I did not say, oh, yes, I will be your teacher, blah, 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 things like that, So keep that in mind, please. But otherwise, if you never thought of it that way, you never said those words, for the most part, I'm not going to go, hey, why didn't you come? Why didn't you continue the class? We have so many conditions, it's hard to say. So don't feel bad. Don't feel awkward, if like, you're like, oh, I think I need to take a break now. I think I'm done studying this. I got to do something else. Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So 44. Briefly summarizing by establishing the body of the treatise in general. If within the first Vajra statement, which is all the teachings of the Buddha reveal the original state of the fundamental nature. So if within this first Vajra statement, by the way, we treated this statement in a very detailed way, because it's such an important statement. So if you did not join our class at that point, you want to go back to the beginning and look for maybe recording number 2 or number 3, and look for this particular class. It's really important to understand this first line. So anyway, if within the first Vajra statement, which is all the teachings of the Buddha reveal the original state of the fundamental nature, all phenomena of samsara and nirvana and all of true reality are combined, then this also includes the complete body of this treatise. Meaning he says this first verse, includes everything, the whole content of this collection of Gongchik. Now, the complete nature of samsara, which is the fundamental nature of all individual phenomena, never goes beyond the nature of the basic consciousness, which is the essence of the Buddhas which is profound emptiness. So the complete nature of samsara, which you can also call the fundamental nature of all individual phenomena, never goes beyond the basic consciousness, meaning nature of our mind, meaning ordinary mind, ordinary consciousness, which is also synonymous with the essence of the Sugata, Buddha nature, which is also profound emptiness. So these are all synonyms. Because of different contexts, they have different words, but these are all synonyms. So the Uttara Tantra says, what is the nature of Dharmadhatu? Dharmadhatu, the realm of reality. It is without beginning, middle, and end. It is totally indivisible. Meaning you cannot say there's this part, up, down, left, right. And fa, meaning it doesn't have, it's not composite, therefore it's indivisible. And far from the two extremes, nihilism and eternalism, or essentialism. Rid of the three veils that we talked about, free from those veils, unpolluted, and not an object of thought, not an object of the intellect. The intellect cannot reach this. Its realization is the vision of a yogi who dwells in meditative equipoise. The only way to realize this is through a meditative equipoise, meaning first, stability of mind, and stability of mind that is dwelling on that nature. So two things, meditative equipoise here, not just that your mind is stable, but your mind is stably residing in mind. In those teachings of Jigten Sunggung we've been translating, it says, place mind in mind. Place your mind in mind. Meaning, right? Look at the heart rather than the activities of the heart. Let the activities of the heart, another way of phrasing it, come back to the heart. And let it stay there. When it stays there, stably, then you can realize this essence of the Sugatas, emptiness, basic consciousness, fundamental of nature of all individual phenomena, complete nature of samsara, all synonyms. The Dharma of pure aspiration is taught to sentient beings who are an appearance of true reality, the fundamental nature that is the nature emptiness. Furthermore, when the fundamental nature of Buddhahood, which is the natural expression that manifests as the embodiment of supreme awakening through the power of a completely pure aspiration, arises unimpeded, just that single original state of the fundamental nature of phenomena that is thereby taught is revealed and nothing else. It is not so that to some a meaning requiring further interpretation is taught, and to others a definitive meaning is taught. So here, the Chogi Drakpa, Chodra, the author of this commentary. I know this section is kind of hard, okay? But the gist is, he's saying, this fundamental nature, and in the context of Buddhahood, what is really Buddhahood? Buddhahood is the embodiment of the supreme awakening. Where does this supreme awakening come from? It comes from, it's the result of pure aspiration, meaning pure relative bodhicitta. When pure relative bodhicitta arises, when you give rise to that, it then leads to supreme awakening, absolute bodhicitta. Then these two become indivisible, arises indivisible, and this is what we call Buddhahood, which is the natural expression that manifests as a result of supreme awakening, absolute bodhicitta, that is realized by the power of pure aspiration, relative bodhicitta. And this is what is taught. And this is what the Buddha revealed. Then the last sentence, it is not that to some a meaning requiring further interpretation is taught, and to others a definitive meaning is taught. So these have to do with these in explaining. You know, Buddha sometimes said this is ngedun and drangdun. Drangdun is to be further interpreted. Ngedun is definitive. So, of course, these tools to say, oh, this is definitive, this is interpretable, these tools were also given by the Buddha. But sometimes these tools become so rigid. Then people spend all their time, you know, looking at sutras, looking at texts and say, oh, this is ngedun, this is drangdun, this is definitive, this is interpretable, this is, because it appears in this book, it is definitive, because it appears in that book, it is, you know, interpretable. And here it says, no. The Buddha actually doesn't go about saying, oh, I'm going to say something interpretable to this guy. Oh, I'm going to say something definitive to this guy. The Buddha taught the fundamental nature of everything to everyone that he came across. Yeah, but how they are going to hear what he taught leads to differences in high and low. However, when the Buddha teaches a dharma that is absolute and singular, the ways of understanding that are the individual fundamental natures of sentient beings arise individually. See? What he taught is single and absolute. But the ways of understanding that are the individual fundamental natures of sentient beings. And that arise individually. So all the 84,000 becomes 84,000. Here, when it says fundamental natures of sentient beings, don't think of this as the fixed fundamental nature. It's not talking about that. Here, the fundamental nature of sentient beings mean, you know, cause and effect. So at this point in your particular mix of cause and effect, your understanding of the absolute single point that he's teaching us will be understood in your particular way. My particular set of cause and effect, right, and karma and all that, at this point, will lead me to understand it in this way, and then this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, that way. So you have 84,000. They arise individually, and therefore the meanings appear to contradict one another. To avoid contradiction, the scholars composed treatises to explain the Dharma through such things as the 6 positions and the 4 ways. So, right, after Buddha passed, right? Then the great minds of the tradition, the systematizers, have to put it into a clear system. This is what gave rise to initially the Abhidharma. Then later people created even more texts, more commentaries, more explanations to help people understand. But in truth, coming back to the commentary, in truth, the meaning never deviates from the fundamental nature. So the Uttara Tantra says, just as the sound of the drum arises among the gods from their deeds, the Dharma spoken by the Muni arises in the world from the being's deeds. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Buddha said, I have not uttered a single syllable. So that doesn't literally mean he has not spoken a single word. It means that all the words that he has spoken, right? Obviously, there are different words here, this occasion, that occasion, this occasion, that occasion. All those differences doesn't arise from his side. There's also the saying that when the Buddha taught, people of different language background, people of human and non-human languages, they all understood him according to their own language, meaning according to their own karma. If you don't have the right karma, you listen to Buddha Shakyamuni and you can, go in the wrong direction. And that is not because Buddha Shakyamuni did not give you the absolute word. He always just taught the absolute single nature. How we hear it gives rise to all the differences. Moreover, in the same vein, moving on, water that is cool, delicious, soft, and light when it falls from the clouds acquires on earth very many tastes by touching salty and other grounds. When the waters of the Noble Eightfold Path rain from the heart of the vast cloud of love, they will also acquire many kinds of tastes by the different grounds of being's makeup. We saw this analogy before, in the commentary. Thus, through the power of his former aspiration and completion of the two accumulations, the Buddha taught without deviating from the single way, the Dharma that arose from the fundamental nature. That teaching elaborates as unhesitatingly as the light rays of the sun and is present for the individual fundamental natures of sentient beings. Lord Drikungpa taught that the appearances taught in Sutra and Tantra are different due to the different mental dispositions of the recipients. Lord Drikungpa is Kyoba Rinpoche. So accordingly, apart from arising as the individual forms of understanding, the teachings do not deviate from the single meaning. Hence the title of this text, Gongchik, Gongpachikpa, the single intent or the single intention. So this is taught in the Smashana Langara Tantra, taught as a single vehicle, but individually understood as many. Now, why is the mind of all beings of samsara and nirvana called fundamental nature or nature? The Uttara Tantra says, the mind is held to be by nature continuously luminous. It is flawed by adventitious defilements. This statement is even found in the so-called Hinayana level. It's already there, actually. Any other mind different from the mind that is true reality is not luminosity, which is the nature. Luminosity is the nature. So the fundamental nature, shi bab. So in that class that we discussed, further dividing shi bab, we know that it is not just fundamental nature. Shi is like She is like the essence aspect of fundamental nature. Bab is the what aspect of fundamental nature? When you further divide shi bab, do you remember? She is the essence aspect of this fundamental nature. Bab is the
unfolding.
Sorry?
Unfolding.
Unfolding, how it plays out. Bab literally to come down, how it plays out. How it unfolds. So it unfolds according to whatever temporary karmic causes and conditions are there for it to unfold. Fundamental nature is empty. One of the many words that you can use. The essence part of this fundamental nature is the empty, is the emptiness. How it unfolds is the karma part, cause and effect. It unfolds as the workings of cause and effect, unmistakably. So this Shibab, which Sobish just uses fundamental nature, of course you have to make some choices. It'll be too clumsy to say, essence and how it unfolds. Shibab is she is how its essence, and bab is how it comes down, how it unfolds. So this fundamental nature that is like that, where happiness arises from the fundamental own nature, so here rangshi, of what is in essence virtue, and suffering arises from non-virtuous disposition, is taught to be this absolute inclusiveness. So in this essence and how it unfolds, we see clearly, we have to see clearly that it is about how happiness arises from the fundamental own nature of what is in essence virtue, and suffering arises from non-virtuous dispositions. So that means we are fundamentally good. Non-virtuous dispositions, that is adventitious, that is accidental, that is temporary. So here, Kyoba Rinpoche will say, yes, there is fundamental good, basic goodness, as Trungpa Rinpoche expressed it, innate wakefulness, which is this luminosity earlier, right? The mind is held to be by nature continuously luminous. That is the fundamental own nature of what is in essence virtue. Ngo gewa. Ngo is like a self, like nature. Essential good. Gewa is virtue. Admittedly, there are Buddhist positions that are, even within Tibetan Buddhism, that will say, no, the fundamental nature is just emptiness. Just emptiness. And you say, so what does that mean? It means nothing you can say. Whatever you can say is not it. But here, Kyoba Rinpoche says, no, it's called fundamental good. Now, for some people, they say, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, this sounds like, the Hindu Atman. This sounds like the self, right? Then when people say that, okay, you have been reading Buddhist philosophy a lot. But interestingly, right? If you look at Buddha's early teachings, right, the recorded teachings of the Buddha from the earliest part, he had no concerns at all that somebody will come and accuse him for being Hindu. Oh, Shakyamuni, come on. Isn't that like a Hindu position? Interestingly, nobody, went up to say that to him. Because in a way, he could care less. Hindu or not. This is not about my religion, your religion, as Khenchen Rinpoche says, this is not about that. Along the way, yes, Buddhists have to kind of differentiate themselves from Hindus in India because they were competing for limited resources, let's put it bluntly. And also they don't want, to have the teachings get all confused and mixed up because, the Hindu culture is a very strong culture, right? You're surrounded by that culture. So yeah, I can understand. There was a need to, look at the Abhidharma, come up with more Shastra treatises to show how, our system is different from the Hindu system. And by the way, the Hindu system is also still constantly evolving, The Hindu system that was around when Buddha was around is very different from the Hindu system that we have today. So don't think that the Hindu system remains, frozen. They were also evolving. In the earliest teachings, the Buddha did, on different occasions, differentiate what he was saying from what's known as the 6 alternative traditions. Or less friendly, they're called the 6 heretical positions. But I would say they're just the 6 alternative explanation for causation. If you look at those 6, like non-Buddhists, an easy way to say that, the 6 non-Buddhist positions that are addressed in the early texts, you will see that it's not, the Buddha wasn't picking fights with these 6 alternative positions on like abstract things. The Buddha was addressing one very specific issue. What's the issue? Can you guess? Maybe you know. He wasn't debating them on the issue of, is this world permanent or not? Was this world created or not? All these, we think later, these are all important questions. But in this earliest layer of the Buddha's teachings that we have, to the degree that he did talk about wrong views, what was the criterion of what made a particular view wrong or mistaken? Can you guess or do you know? Either.
Guru, can we say that the wrong view that is intended by the Buddha at that time is any view that does not lead to liberation or to the ending of suffering?
Yes, of course. Let's get more precise. And therefore what?
And therefore should not be talking on or discussing on topics that are not relevant?
Yeah, so what is most relevant then?
As in solving the immediate...
and which is what?
The mental addiction.
Somebody help Leonard. It's good. Leonard has started this building. Let's build the rest of it.
About it is about virtuous actions, and inventions have
Theory of causation. Theory of causation. Theory that lies behind actions and the result of actions. Karma. Yes, all Buddhist traditions talk about karma, but the degree that, Jidin emphasizes karma and interdependence. Again, for me, I didn't start off as Tibetan Buddhist, I start off first with reading these early scriptures, So when I read Jidin Sunggon, I feel, wow, he cuts right back to historical Buddhists, and points out, the most important thing. In fact, the most important thing for the historical Buddha, based on modern scholarship and what modern scholars know about the most ancient Buddhist texts, you can see that the Buddha wasn't even that concerned about, say, anatta or anatman, which of course later Buddhist traditions will say, oh, non-self, that's like our, claim to fame, right? All card-carrying Buddhists, are certified non-self. You carry the non-self card, But in fact, historical Buddha, you see in the early texts, one time, somebody came and asked him a question. Do you teach that, is it right? I heard that people say you teach that there is no Atman. It said that the Buddha did not answer. Maybe he just smiled. Then the questioner says, oh, wait. So maybe people are wrong. So maybe you do believe that there's Atman? There is self, like this unchanging self. It said Buddha also did not answer. He just smiled. Then this guy said, I think you know nothing. So he walks away. Because both things he did not answer, Then Ananda said, Lord, why didn't you tell him, yes, I teach an Atman, no self. Buddha said, he wasn't interested in, the basic problem of suffering and the cessation of suffering. And if I say, yes, I teach no self, he will come to the wrong conclusion of what that means. And he will think, well, since there's no self, then why does it matter what you do? Because there's no one suffering. There's no one experiencing happiness. So just do whatever hell you want. He will reach that conclusion if I answer, yes, I teach that there is no self. Then Buddha says, and then if I teach that there is a self, then he's going to think, oh, so this divine pure self, then no matter what I do, it's not going to change this divine pure self. Then doesn't matter what I do. He's also going to walk away with, it doesn't matter what I do. And so I don't answer those types of questions, he said. So insofar as the historical Buddha, as far as we can tell, addressed like positions other than his, in fact, he wasn't even really interested in addressing that. But only when the subject comes up, only when it comes up and it impacts how we are going to act, that is when he lays it down clearly. This is how the way things are, and we need to understand that this is how they are. We need to see clearly on that. So here, regarding this, it is said that from the fundamental nature consisting of this cause, that result arises, without the Buddha being able to change it. Even Buddhas cannot change. Buddhas in the Buddhist context are like the greatest, right? Sort of like God in the God system is the greatest. So it's like saying even God cannot change the fundamental nature of things. Even Buddhists cannot change. So I pay homage to you, the master who is dependent on causes, the exalted one. Even Buddhists are dependent on causes. Who never holds a view of the two extremes, who only teaches the ripening of the result of karma, and who is free from the darkness of views. Druma Kinara Sutra. This praise, beautiful praise, right? This is all about cause and effect. Samsara and nirvana are therefore nothing but the embodiment of virtue and non-virtue. And the embodiment is nothing but the fundamental nature. Now quoting a tantra, apart from the dual mind, there is neither Buddha nor being. Apart from the basic consciousness and the other consciousnesses, there is nothing whatsoever. Through such ways, a single moment is demonstrated as countless eons. And so here is the unfolding, almost magical unfolding now. So through such ways, a single moment, the single moment of mind, is demonstrated as countless eons, can become countless eons. What for a human being, right, for example, is a single moment, for an amoeba is countless eons, right? Then what for the gods is a single moment, for human beings is countless eons. How miraculous, you know? But this is all based on the natural state of things. This is not magic. As in, like, it goes against the way things are. It's not like that. So a single moment is demonstrated as countless eons. Limitless Buddha fields are fitted into a single atomic particle. That's the title of one of His Holiness Dalai Lama's books on science, modern science, and Buddhism, you know. The universe in a single atom. This is taken from Gandavriya, I think, Avatamsaka Sutra. And so forth. But to those who do not understand, this seems to be a contradiction. However, in essence, it is beyond the natural disposition. It is not, beyond the natural disposition. Meaning it is not beyond, you know, what is possible naturally. And it is called the sphere of reality, Dharma Dhatu, or fundamental nature. Again, all these synonyms. The Madhyanta Vibhaga says, apart from the sphere of reality like this, there are no other phenomena. Thus and so forth, it has been limitlessly taught. Furthermore, it has been taught in the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, Lotus Sutra, that the Exalted One benefited the Bodhisattva Prajñakutta during the 50 eons of the middle, while on this continent, not more than a morning had passed. In this, our world, only one morning, but in a different world, 50 eons have passed. If one understands this topic alone, one has understood all teachings of the Buddha. This is the summary of this treatise. Its teaching is the manner of establishing its body, and the other Vajra statements are like its elaborations. Therefore, this is very important. The glorious Nyepuwa said, "I'm grateful to be at the feet of Jigten Gompo for just this single teaching." So this summary, you know, come back again and again. You will see more and more and more as we go through the Vajra statements, you know. come back to this summary again and again. So now, any questions or comments?
I have a question on luminosity. We're being taught that the nature of mind is luminous. And that basically we mess things up, we obscure the
Yes.
natural state of our minds, which is this luminosity.
Clarity. Yeah, clarity is another word for luminosity.
Okay. So my question is, when I hear the word luminosity, it's like light.
No, it has nothing to do with light.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing to do with light. It's just a metaphor. It means clarity without confusion.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Yeah, often, and then because it's the stuff of religion, and then you hear about, in the bardo, you see this light, you see that light, and people think, oh, this is the light. No. Luminosity means without confusion, clear. So basic awareness, rigpa, sees everything clearly without mistake, without obscuration, without confusion. And that luminosity also has the nature of qualities of compassion, kindness, patience, all of that. Other questions? Comments? I'm blaming it on the gringo in this room, that everybody is so quiet. My Tuesday with Ecuadorians and Peruvians and Puerto Ricans, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Everybody is so social, talking to each other up and down, left and right, I said my gringo groups, in the morning or whatever. Maybe it's too early. I don't know, It's like everybody is just completely silent, Okay, then. Not going to force you to be noisy. Tomorrow is Lojong in the evening. So if you are interested, don't forget that one. Lojong is a different Zoom ID and password. Yeah. So, write that down and post it on a note on your computer. Then it will solve a lot of problems. Okay. Then after this Saturday, so starting next week, then we're back to just Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a little bit. Maybe I'll add something, but not so soon. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then we're going back, and I will send you, don't worry, to the old ID, the Sakadawa retreat. It will be over, which is the ID we're using now. We'll go back to the old ID, the Guru Puja Gongchik Zoom ID and password. I will send that to you as a reminder over this weekend. Changju sem Rinpoche ma ge ba nam ge gyurche Gepa nyampa mepa Gone gongdu pewar sho. Oh, also, I think some of you are probably following Genpo Tenzin's teaching on Gongchik started yesterday, yeah, in Arizona. It's live casted on YouTube. And so I'm sure the video remains available on YouTube. It's done with translation by Ina. They're just starting at the beginning. And I'm sure if you participated, you have seen how I would say that is a much more kind of like, Shedra Kempo style of studying Gongchik. Yeah? So you will get a lot of information there. If you like, that kind of depth, that kind of detail, definitely is very helpful. That kind of approach. So, Tata.
Thank you.
Selamat malam.